Welcome to a D&D video of mine. A type of video I very often record, but very rarely actually upload. I have way too many The Walking Twats already, and a lot of them are on D&D. And even not Walking Twats, I do tend to record stuff for D&D type of things, but I never upload them for some reason, don't know why. This time I want to talk about me getting better at making maps. Now this isn't as much the quality of the maps in a visual way, because, well, creating that's mainly, well, both of these are just practice, but that is also just the tool that you use. I, for instance, have Dungeon Painter Studio with a couple of community-made things, so making maps that look good is remarkably easy. Making good maps, though, that's a lot harder. That requires that you actually kind of have an idea of how you should make maps. So I wanted to look at the maps that I made for the Magic Altars campaign kind of thingy, and see how I improved over every new map. So, if you are one of my players, or if you would want me to run the Magic Altars with you at some point, then you shouldn't watch this video because it will reveal, well, will reveal a lot. The first map I think I made for the campaign was the Overworld map, which I think this is a map that is extremely useful. It gives your players really a feeling of where they are in the world. And I do think that this map also turned out quite well. This region is supposed to be the middle of bloody nowhere, so the towns that are in the place are just, well, places where people have a farm or where herders come to get the wool from their flocks or things like that. Of course, how this map looks isn't exactly random. I don't know how many people have figured it out, because seemingly my players haven't yet, and they have been looking at this map a lot. But this map isn't just a map. This map is, well, it's in the shape of a beholder. The central forest, yeah, that's the shape of a beholder. It's the beholder on the cover of the monster manual. And almost all of the places are actually on locations where the eyes are. And I even made it more obvious because every single place that is placed on one of these eyes has a fancy altar, pillar of stones with otherworldly thingy on it. So, how they haven't figured it out yet, that's a mystery to me, but luckily they haven't, because I thought it was way too obvious. But yeah, this is probably a pretty good one. I also made a map for the central town. This is something I heavily advocate against. Do not make a map for your town, it's utterly useless. You really don't need to know where things are in the town. It really is wasting your time. You can just say, oh yeah, you go to the market district, or you go to the central plaza, you go to the big library, or you go to this person's house, and how those relate to each other, how big they exactly are, it really doesn't matter. It's extremely not useful to make a town map. So yeah, if you want to make your own campaign and you're thinking of what map should I make, do not make the map of a town. It's utterly wasted. Now, I put a lot of time into this one, and I do think it looks nice. But in hindsight, I shouldn't have bothered. It's not relevant to anything. Now this is a tiny house. It's actually the house of one of the NPCs who I thought would be a central character, and I mean, he is a central character, it's just also that my players really don't seem to engage with him an awful lot, which is just interesting. Really teaches you something as DM of, hey, yeah, you might have had this NPC set up, but that doesn't matter, because your players will figure out what NPCs they decide matter. Of course I did need this map because, well, it would have been very possible for combat to happen here. Then there is my first absolute failed map. This map is of a flooded mine. Now it looks good, it might even have uses later on for me. It has one huge problem though. And the word huge problem fit quite well, because the problem with this map is it's too big. One of these rooms, it might take some of them a dash action to get from one side of the room to another. That's way too big for just a random mine that was not supposed to take up too much time. It looks nice, but it's utterly wasted. It's bad. I scrapped it because it's too big. It's too big to fulfill its purpose. And yes, I know, just say that it's smaller, but that really doesn't work with how it's set up. So I remade it into this flooded mine. Now, it looks extremely similar, which is exactly the point. It looks similar because, well, it served the exact same point. It was made for the same reason. This one is just a lot smaller. I mean, it might still take some characters a long time to move from one side of the room to another, but that's because a lot of this cave is underwater, so speed is halved. But this one actually works quite well. Now, I still probably would have done it differently in hindsight, but this one is relatively okay. It's a relatively good mazy mine thing that I could definitely plop a couple horrible monsters in. This is the magnum opus of looks good, great concept, atrocious. Well, the concept is good, but it doesn't work. This is the Undead Citadel. The problem with the Undead Citadel is, once again, it's fucking huge. Now, this is a map I did use, and it kind of worked then, but it's not particularly useful, really. It's too big. One element on their own might be able to work. For instance, just the maze. The maze is probably the best part of it, and just the maze, yeah, that would actually that's a pretty good bit of map. But just the massive scale of it, it's not good for gameplay. It simply doesn't translate well into actually playing on. This map is basically the concept of an area, which then should be done more in Theatre of the Mind. But since I'm not great at Theatre of the Mind, I really shouldn't attempt this type of stuff. Just don't make maps that are bloody massive. And this is probably something I'll say another many times, because it's the big pitfall I currently have. I tend to make my maps way too goddamn big, every single time. Now this is the modus work farm. This is a place where a lot of farmers sleep in a single house, which could have very easily broken into big combat, which it probably still will because, well, of all the evil plans I have going, but this is probably a relatively good one. This does seem like a place where a lot of people would sleep, a lot of people would eat, and yeah, it actually looks like this place makes sense, which is something I do always go for. I want my places to make sense. Wasted effort? Probably, most people probably won't notice it, but I do, so it matters to me. Now this one, is much better. This is the Green Hunnery. It's a farm where they cultivate bees, run by goblins. So that made for an interesting encounter already, because, oh yeah, you see goblins all over the place. And then, oh yeah, they're just working the fields, so they don't kill them. And then they come up to them and they offer them to buy honey. Now this is very expensive because what they offer people to buy is a barrel of honey. Just think water barrel. Now it's all filled with honey. Probably the nicest bit of this map is how the building looks. It looks not very well constructed. It looks like something that goblins would kind of slap together. A massive step up for me is how I did the second floor. Previously I tried to do that in different layers. That is an absolutely atrocious idea. What I did in this one is just take the top floor and put it somewhere else, which works so much better. Just never do what I did. Never try to make different layers and then place them on top of each other using, for instance, the DM layer. Never do that. It's a horrible idea. Just a second floor, make that a different bit of the map somewhere else. This is a bit of forest. It's a rather good looking bit of forest, I do say. This was a place where they were hunting a giant fuck-off T-Rex. And this wasn't just a regular T-Rex, no, this was actually a T-Rex I upgraded, so yeah, this thing was terrifying. They still took it down extremely quickly, but yeah, my players are just way too good at stuff and kill them with way too much ease, so whoops. Guess I'll have to make even deadlier dragons and deadlier stuff now for them to fight. But yeah, this is just a nice bit of map. It has an open field, it is too big once again, but too big here kind of works because if they came close to it, then the T-Rex would have gone after them, and the T-Rex is way bloody faster. So in that case, sometimes a big map can be useful, though you still, like maybe a quarter of this map was used, maybe, so yeah, still me making that same mistake of making my maps way too fuck off big. This is where I largely learned my lesson. Don't make big maps. This map is way smaller, and kind of serves the same purpose as the Undead Citadel map. This is just mainly 4 very big trees and a bit of forest ground. And it looks nice, and it's big enough for combat to happen on without being wastefully big. Now this was the map for the controlling tower. I say was because once again I made the same goddamn problem. I made it too fucking big. So to remedy that, I changed it once again to this. I simply made the walkway leading upwards way smaller, way thinner, and when my players get to it, they will be able to kind of skip most of the walking around the thing until something will happen. Because now we finally pass into the future. All the previous maps, they have all been used already. This one is finally new and introduces, well, it makes an interesting challenge because this time they really have to get up, which means there are lots of ways to do that. You can walk up, you can climb up and not walk around as much, or you can try to maybe fly or something, because certain characters do have access to that. There are just some I think they're really interesting options. And, well, there is also just background stuff and things that are being planned on this map, but my players are unable to know that yet. Though the map does kind of tell that story as well, for a bit at least. And this is back to the very not subtle part of my map design. This is the entrance to a temple. To the sealed temple, in fact, which is something that all my players have heard about, but they know that no one has ever gone in. So, yay, intrigue. And with a bit of luck, they will be the first to enter it. I do wonder if they'll pick up on the thing that, oh look, this thing kind of rings within rings. Yeah, that kind of looks like an eye, doesn't it? Can somebody pick up already that I literally made the map look like a beholder? Is someone going to figure that out? I do hope so. Though, I mean, on one side I hope so. Well, I don't as much hope that they figure it out, and more, I hope that when they come to the close of this campaign, I can just show it and they all just go, how did we not figure it out? That's what I really hope for, but who knows, they might figure it out with this extremely blatant, look, it's an eye. And then probably so far, map-wise, my magnum opus. On one side, this map is a fucking mess. It is huge, but none of its sections are huge, it's just a lot of different sections. And none of the sections seemingly go together, or at least many of them don't. But that's by design. It's supposed to not fit together. Yeah, there's a reason. There's a lot of reason for that. But yeah, I do like how it turned out with first the cave bit, which then leads into a more standard dungeon, which then leads into a blown up. I say blown up, it's not like a boom type of blown up, but more, let's take this small car and make it a way larger car, but it still has the proportions of a small car library. And out of that library are 5 more doors. One leading into a wooden hallway, which is very spooky and mysterious, which I think I actually managed to capture spooky and mysterious on the map, which I do think is quite special. That's not something I think you can easily do. Another section is, well, I kind of want to make it feel like a gothic place and a gothic vampire lair type place, which I think I kind of pulled off. A lot better than I would expect to be able... A lot better than I expected to be able to pull off kind of crypt situation. It's not a crypt, but it has an interesting feel to it, I think. The third, which is just, it's one big hallway leading to a massive treasury. So, yeah, that's obviously leading to a dragon. Which, yeah, that's going to be fun. Just, hey look, here's a dragon. Good luck, what are you gonna do now? And of course, like always, well, most always with me, there are more than one solution to attacking the place. You can talk to the dragon, it might just be... Well, how much can you talk to a dragon? That would be interesting. Though there is also a side chute to this hallway which leads into a wyvern bit. A wyvern nest. And yes, I do know that those normally don't go together very well. At least I think so. Don't think that wyverns normally live together with, well, other wyverns most of the time and dragons, other dragons in general. I mean, I guess they're not technically full dragons themselves, but yeah, that's just pedantic. But there's a reason for that. This dungeon doesn't make sense, and there is a reason why it doesn't make sense, which is the best way to not make sense. And the fourth region is more kind of a foresty situation, or big spider cave, and yeah, that's also a fun place, which I think does look nice. I really have some very nice, I'll probably give the name of what I used to make for all the good bits of the map, because yeah, I put the map together, but all the elements of the map I got from other places. And then about as standard and amazingly evil of a lair you can find, or lair you can get, which is just massive room with just a couple walkways above lava. Because what's cooler than fighting in a massive cavern above lava? And yeah, this is it did take me very long to put this map together, but I think that it does look very good, and I think it will be a good map to play in. I think that it will actually work quite well for gameplay. So yeah, maybe you got some good ideas from this video. Probably not. But I think that, well, I think it was interesting to look back at the previous maps I created. So yeah, this has been Phoenix, saying farewell.